But without much further ado, Michael Foley is going to be talking about QE engagement patterns in an agile environment.
Thank you very much. Hello, everybody, and Dobry Den. My name is Mike Foley, and I'm a QE in the middleware group. And as the slide says, I'll be talking about QE engagement in an agile process. I'm basically going to cover three things. One, what is agile? Two, we're going to, and this will be the bulk of the session, we're going to have an interactive role-playing thing where us as QEs are going to participate in an agile process and in the agile ceremonies, so we get some practice to engage effectively. And then three, hopefully together as a team, we'll learn from each other, and as well as some slides I have on how to engage effectively in a QE process. Does that sound like a good plan? If not, leave now. In the olden days, there was something called waterfall, and it took over a year, sometimes longer, to go from there to there. QE would engage very late, and would basically be here. This is very bad. No interaction with requirements, design, and implementation. So this methodology has pretty much gone away, being replaced by Agile, Kanban, and Scrum. But as we've transitioned to that, sometimes everything doesn't go well. In the new process in Agile, this, I know you're all familiar with this, but we value individuals and interactions over processes and tools. We value working software over documentation. We value customer collaboration over contract negotiation. And we value responding over change to following a plan. What happens sometimes is it works really well, and I've seen it work really well. Sometimes it's completely chaotic. Is anybody here doing Agile? Is it working for you? Is it a train wreck, or is it unicorns and rainbows? Is anybody doing Agile?
In the middle.
Is it working for you, or?
Yeah, it is more or less working.
Yep, awesome. And who else is doing Agile, just so I know?
Most of it is a hybrid.
Oh, that's awesome. So we're all doing Agile?
Most people do a hybrid, I think.
Yeah. Yes, we're gonna do some practice. I'm gonna skip, just in case anybody isn't familiar with Agile, there's a 120-second overview on this slide that explains Agile in 120 seconds. I'm gonna skip that, assuming you all know that. But the one thing I want to point out, so this image describes the Agile process, and the most interesting thing, at least for me, is that there are many roles identified, but nowhere is the role of QE. So to me, that's the most interesting thing about the Agile. It doesn't tell us how to engage, and it's actually critical for us to engage effectively to influence the developers and influence the product quality. So we're going to practice engaging in this process together as a team. This could be fun. It could be risky. I hope we learn together. We'll see how it goes. I've set up an example here that we're all going to work through together. There's the product backlog here. These yellow stickies are the work that we want to do in the future. Our current sprint, today is actually the beginning of our sprint. And I just want to explain the sprint. We have three features that we want to implement in this sprint. I've named them the 3 feature, the 7 feature, and the 21 feature. There's 4 tasks in each sprint. Some of them are like typical developer tasks, and some of them are typical QE tasks. It doesn't really say which is what, so we'll see what happens. In each sprint, there's 4 tasks. We want to add a method that multiplies a number by 3, 7, or 21. So we want to add some functionality. We want to add some UI to display the result of that on our web page. We want to add a unit test to test the function, and we also want to add a UI automated test. So for each of those, we have 4 tasks. I'm going to be looking for volunteers. We'll grab a card just like it is in Sprint. We're going to get some practice. To implement the method, just write a little pseudocode on the board. I brought extra pens. I can help you with the pseudocode, or you can make something up. It's really not the point, is to write the correct pseudocode, but you can practice writing some pseudocode. So work on the tasks. We'll move them to done. I'll stop the activity after 5 or 10 minutes when it seems to be fading. Then we'll go through the ceremony of a daily stand-up, see how that goes. All the people will be accountable for participating actively in the daily stand-up. And then we're going to have a retrospective. And hopefully we'll see what we learn together as a team by going through this sprint together. So that's the plan. And then so that's the plan. I hope it's fun. It's a little risky. I hope we learn something together. So I need volunteers. Jenny is a volunteer. Actually, the more volunteer, if you don't volunteer, your job is to yell at the people who have volunteered.
I don't want to volunteer.
So we need more than one person. I need at least 4, 6 people. Corey, Irina.
Me?
Yes.
Okay.
4. Carol, thank you. And Kite, please volunteer. And John, do you want to join in our sprint?
Scott wants to.
Awesome. Yeah, anybody can join. So Larry, would you join in our sprint? Thank you. And anybody else join. The people who aren't the active role players in this sprint, feel free to just yell at them. Okay? So the people who volunteered, just stand up. I'm not going to say what to do because this is the way Agile works. There's 3 stories. There's 3 stories. Some of them are development, some of them are 2-week tasks. Grab a story. When you want to implement your story, just write a little pseudocode here. It doesn't have to be right, but if you feel like writing some code, write the code.
Should I grab it?
Yeah, and we're just going to see how this works because we're going to go through the ritual of participating in Agile, and hopefully together you'll gain some experience. I'll gain some experience and we'll learn.
So what does it do? I need to write some function which takes an argument and multiplies it by 7?
Yep, that's it. And just write a little pseudocode. It can be 1 line. You can just write the method signature or whatever you want.
Mr. Manager, I don't understand the requirements.
Okay, so you have to write a unit test that validates that method. So someone hasn't written that method yet.
So I'm just going to wait here.
Okay, you're waiting there. That's good. That's actually a learning point.
Done. And then the method should be written.
Oh yeah, you can scribble it right there in doing, or on the card. You can write your method on the card.
Oh, okay.
Everybody
Yeah.
has a
Yeah. So everybody take a task because we gotta.
Mike, do you have more laptops or pens? Right.
I need a pen.
Yep. Here's a pen.
I need a pen like a small pen.
Okay. Who's writing the method?
Do you have a pen?
It's me?
Yeah.
Right, so I need to know what are your jobs? I don't know how it's going to work.
I know.
You're blocked now.
No, this is good. I'm not saying this is rigged, but I see that.
Part of that, but thinking about probably write it as a REST API, and so you be able to invoke it.
Oh, I'll do that part. You can do the UI because you still have.
Yeah, there is.
I have to do it first. So I'll do the invoking earlier. So we're doing right now. So you already did, right?
No, not yet. I need to write a C.
Oh, well.
My task just became meaningless. Who needs help on our team?
It's not meaningless. It's not meaningless.
Just know you want this.
No. He's a REST API to implement it, but it still has to.
Oh, I'm waiting for that.
Oh, so yeah, he's not going to do the right.
Oh, yeah.
I'll wait for stand-ups.
Yeah. No, I know some of these tasks this is leading into what we learned. I know some of these things aren't immediately, can't work on them immediately, but this is what happens in a sprint. So we're here to just experience this and learn how this works.
I might have wrote something about the page after.
I will suspect as well.
There's still more tasks to work on.
Multiplied by 7, which takes my time. I wrote it like in Python.
That's fine. That's fine. That's perfect.
Oh.
That's done.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I have it like on the other side.
That's okay. Yep. So we've got one method done. So notice the velocity of the task being completed.
And I'll use yours.
Okay, and that's good. Hike just added a card. So the method is created for this.
Okay, where's the message for that?
It's on the back. So you can just assume that there's pseudocode. You can just pretend it's done. You don't need to see. So just write. So now the unit test.
It's in place?
You're writing the unit test, right? And you can just make a scribble or you can pretend you're writing a
Okay,
cert.
so,
Yeah, just make a squiggle. You don't, it's not a coding exercise.
Say what I'm doing.
alright.
So then it's done.
Okay.
You use mine. Okay.
And you're still standing around for somebody that was at 21?
That's
actually So I just mark doing or free?
Doing, I think you can, what you're doing for now, you've checked it out, I put it under doing.
21.
This is good. It's,
Take x and x is equal.
Larry, do you want to grab a card?
Multiply
X
by.
is the number I want to multiply.
Add UI test, okay, can you complete it?
Right, so
I
it
have
will
multiplied by
be.
7.
Oh, because the display is not done.
Times.
Yeah.
wait.
Yeah, you're waiting. Yeah, I know some of these tasks, but this is what happens. This is what happens in a developer sprint. So we're learning how QE can engage.
Just about
Had to write it first. Okay, this is an UI method.
Yeah.
So your
I'm just gonna see what's going on there.
Yeah, your method is done.
I was actually wondering what was the.
And here x.
Okay, so we've got a method, we've got the display. I think it's now possible to work on these tasks.
Yes.
And multiply 3.
Yeah. Okay, that's done.
Multiplying by 21. The UI test is trailing.
Yeah, does anybody want to work on these tasks?
No, it's not waiting
Yes,
until
so
the,
return multiply.
The day almost over, Mr. Manager?
It's getting to be almost over. The day's almost over.
We have nobody to do that.
Okay.
All right.
Nobody took that, so.
Okay, yeah.
We are out of resources, I'm sorry, we're blocked.
Yep, yep. I'm gonna call it at the end of the day, so everybody goes to sleep, pretend you go
Oh,
to sleep.
please, thank you.
You go to sleep, we only sleep for 3 hours, so stop what you're doing. Close your eyes, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi. You wake up the next day, okay, and the team has a developer stand-up. Okay, so now we're gonna go through the motions of what happens at a developer stand-up. And the general pattern is, yesterday, today, and am I blocked, and be quick. So you say, yesterday I worked on the unit test to verify the 3 method. Today I plan on finishing that, I am not blocked. Or you could say, yesterday I did.
Yesterday I browsed Reddit all day because I couldn't do my job.
Why couldn't you do your job?
Because the person who's working on, no one is assigned to that feature.
Could
so-
you pick up another task?
Oh, maybe I could.
Oh, Jenny, what about you?
Yesterday, after the method was implemented to multiply by 3, I took that code and wrote the unit test for that, doing JSON data-driven for positive, negative values and randomly generated.
Awesome.
And
Thank you.
invalid characters, no value, all the good stuff.
Thank you. And are you blocked by anything tomorrow
I'm
or
not
today?
blocked by anything, but I think I have a few bugs to log.
Awesome.
Since they did not all pass.
Awesome.
Yesterday, I've been working on implementation for the multiply by 21.
Yeah?
And it's done today.
Oh, it is?
Yesterday,
Right.
it was done yesterday.
Oh, yeah,
It's done today.
that's excellent.
We're gonna
That's
do today,
excellent.
you gonna pick up the UI on one of those? Because nobody wants to.
So are you
work on the
unblocked
UI.
now, Corey, are you unblocked because he's done? And you don't have to do anything, but you may be unblocked for tomorrow, for today.
Has anyone picked up, you worked on 21?
21, yeah.
Oh, maybe I can do that today.
Yeah,
I should
great.
look at Facebook.
Awesome. Right. And, yeah, you and stand up.
blocked for a little while waiting on the implementation of multiply by 7, but once it was done, I wrote the unit test for it.
Excellent, thank you. And height, what did you do?
I took one of customer scenarios and made a test plan today and started writing automation on it.
Awesome, thank you, sir.
Yesterday I've implemented multiply by 3, and today I'm planning to do multiply by 7.
Perfect, thank you, Carol.
But multiply by 7 was done by me.
Maybe you could pick up the UI because nobody's doing it.
I was not aware that somebody is working on the task because I've seen it on to do.
I think there were 2.
No, it's on done.
There were 2.
There are 2 multiples.
Oh, well, I made a mistake. Blame the Scrum Master. Blame the Scrum Master. I made a
Bug in the
mistake.
process.
Yeah. John, how about you?
What did I do? I implemented the UI to call the times 3 method.
Yeah.
And I also wrote a test for it, then I realized I shouldn't be testing my own code, so I've moved it back to the doing column, and I'll hand that code that I developed, that test I developed off to someone.
Awesome. And Larry, did you work on anything?
I took one to write UI test, but I am blocking because no one
Yeah.
wrote this.
Did you pick up another card? Or anything?
Yes, I took other.
All right, so that was awesome. Everybody was concise, and you see how.
Didn't ask me.
Oh, Irina, I'm sorry. How did you do?
I did my task multiplying by 7, and after I helped my colleague.
Oh, you helped someone else? That's awesome. I love that. Did I miss anybody else? Okay, I apologize. All right, so do you see how we communicated? Everybody benefited from hearing everybody's status. We kept it quick, and that was a good daily stand-up. Right, so everybody knows exactly where we are. Hopefully, everybody knows what they're working on today. And if somebody has a blocking issue, people can go up and say, sorry you were blocked, Corey. You should be unblocked today because that task is done. So that's an effective daily stand-up. So that was good. Hopefully we've learned something or got some practice from doing a daily stand-up. And then we'll have a retrospective. So this is where we want to learn from what went wrong or what we could do better. So we could pretend the sprint is done. So what went well today? What went well?
I think it goes to management.
No one cares about management.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, sorry. No, I mean, but we're self-managing ourselves. This doesn't report to anybody. We're doing this to reinforce ourselves on things that went well and we want to keep doing. We want to find out what didn't go well, not so we can blame someone and make them feel bad, but find out what didn't go well. Like there were some things that didn't go well I saw. We don't want to make that person feel bad, but we all learn what didn't go well and we can change our behavior for the next sprint. So maybe something happens differently in sprint planning or in the way the sprint goes. And then questions or things that didn't go well. So what went well?
We finished all the tasks.
Significant number of tasks.
Tasks are done. I thought the daily stand-up was efficient, was quick. Other things we can add. And feel free, what didn't go well? I'll name Corey was blocked and he had some idle time.
Yeah, and I didn't let anyone know.
Corey was blocked. Yeah. Okay. What else didn't go well? I had double cards for double cards.
Yeah, so this was my minus.
Yeah, double cards on multiply by 7. And like I said, it's not to blame myself or blame anybody else, but we just got to say what didn't go well. What else didn't go well?
If we had more resources on our team, we could have gotten the UI automation done.
That's right. We didn't get the UI automation done.
The UI wasn't implemented.
Yeah, and actually, I saw the method. The whole 21 story. The whole 21 story was late. We finished the 21 story right the day before the sprint ended. The 21 story was late. I didn't like that. So then.
And I didn't like.
Communication maybe
didn't know
didn't
what
go
others
well.
are doing.
Communication didn't go well, and what was your, Irina?
It's the same. Like nobody knew. I think for majority didn't know what others were doing.
Okay, other people didn't know what other people were doing.
It's communication.
Okay. Yep. And then this is good. And then what I do, one, it's important to have a retrospective, but for everything that didn't go well, I try to propose or ask people to propose countermeasures that fixes that problem. And then we'll decide which of those we want to implement. So Corey was blocked. What can we do to fix that next time? I could say, Corey, if you become blocked, try taking another card.
Well, is this all one big team that was working on this, or are these 3 separate teams?
This was one team.
One team, I think we could have probably finished 3 and 7 had we all worked on 3 and 7.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh, so we should have got organized. I'm going to get to this because I know there was a problem with the 21 story. Yep. Double card. So this was a sprint planning. So this was a sprint planning error by me.
We can have some review.
Yes, I'm sorry.
As an action item, we can have some review.
Yeah, review sprints. Yeah.
And not to be blocked. I think if we have better communication, we will know in advance upcoming blockers.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So this was good, and we've got proposed countermeasures to do for the next iteration. So hopefully on the next iteration, we'll be even better. So that's the exercise. So Really, thank you a million. I was afraid that no one would help me or it would go really poorly. So thank you all. Did you learn anything or did we see?
I think that
Did we get
the
some practice?
major thing to see that you finished nothing because you didn't focus on one.
Yeah.
The amount of resources we had, you didn't plan well enough to
Yeah.
at least deliver something.
Yeah, that happens in real life too, so.
It does.
Worth being reminded of that.
All right, so thank you all. I hope we saw how that worked. It wasn't just me talking about Agile, but we got some practice and experience so that when we go back to our jobs, maybe we're a little bit bolder or ready to engage in the QE process. Because one of the problems I see is that QE doesn't know how to engage, so they don't engage, and then they engage late, as if it was that waterfall thing. They wait for things to be done, and then they start testing. So the whole thing here was to give us some practice and experience and learn a little bit about Agile. So hopefully that mission was accomplished. These are things I've learned, and I don't want to be like I'm Mr. Know-it-all because I'm not, because it's really about the team learning things. But I've done it a few times, and these are things I've learned. One, on choosing a tool, and this is with the Agile Manifesto. It's about people and interactions, not about the tool. So there's all sorts of tools. There's Trello, Agile, Linkit, Exosoft, there's Cantos. None of that matters. If you find yourself in a situation where people are arguing about which tool to use or going through some big phase, they can't decide which, just use sticky pads. The tool does not matter. It's all about us talking to each other. Okay, so on choosing a tool, don't worry.
Okay, sticky papers work in a worldwide distributed team.
Yep, Zing. No, you zing me right there because it doesn't work. We're all got remote teams. So we got to use some tool. I guess use any tool, but don't care what tool it is. What tool do you use, Peter? Do you use a tool?
No,
use Jira? You guys use Jira, I think? Yeah. Do you like Jira or no?
I don't think this whole methodology suits how our team works.
It doesn't. Okay, why not?
We are kind of half Scrum, not really. So
right, no, I know that.
It doesn't matter much if it's Jira and how much it suits.
Right. I'm on Peter's team, and there's some informalities where we're not doing waterfall, we're not doing Scrum. It's a hybrid, and I don't want to call it chaos, but I know what you're saying. It's a valid point. So you got to use some tool, and nobody's doing pure Agile or pure Scrum. So it's not the solution to anything, but hopefully the practice and engaging will help everybody try to engage better. So choosing a tool, my main point is don't worry about it. Use any tool. And then the next area of tips is on defining the board. And there's really two problems I have seen. One is the board is ginormous. It's just too big. There's 20 people, 30 developers, and 10 QEs. The board is just too big. It's too confusing. In a perfect world, like a Scrum team is supposed to be 5 to 10 people, definitely less than 12. If it's bigger than that, you might want to get into separate boards. So the problem of the big board is a problem to avoid. If you see a big board that looks like that, that's probably not going to work. And then the other problem that I see is that QE puts its tasks on a separate Agile board. So developers are doing Agile on one board, and then QE goes on their own separate board and does something different. Or they do the right things, but they're on a different board. So the main thing is to get on the developer board so you're working with them and influencing them on a daily situation. So those are my tips on defining boards. Does anybody else have any tips on defining the board or choosing? Oh, 5 minutes? Holy crap. I gotta go quick. Defining cards. While one task is too big, so the task is just too big. If there's a slow moving card, big task, break it into smaller things. Common pitfall 2, assigning cards to individual people. Like you put on the card, only Joe can do that, or only Irina knows how to add a new method. So that causes dependencies within a sprint. Don't do that. The daily stand-up, these are the problems that occur in a daily stand-up. Be really quick. It needs to be quick and not turn into something giant. The whole thing should take less than 15 minutes. It's just, if you have something more to say, do it afterwards. So quick daily stand-ups. If you see a big daily stand-ups, you want to fix that. Managing the backlog. There's a giant backlog of unprioritized tasks. You want to avoid that situation. One, so you can create a prior column up there, which would be planning for the next sprint. So it's like upcoming sprint, start to prioritize the next sprint, or put the entire backlog on a separate board and manage it there. Sprint planning, I had sprint planning errors, but too much work for one sprint is a problem. And then the big problem I see a lot is work is completed, but there's nothing visual done. You get the person that says, yeah, I worked on this feature. I got nothing to show right now. That's a problem you want to avoid in sprint planning. Moving cards to done. There's a couple different ways to do this. We had everybody move the cards to done. Some QE teams engage by adding a column called test. So the developers, if there are roles, the developers move the cards to test. Then the QE team engages here. The QE team does the QE activity, and it's QE that moves the card to done. So moving things to done, this ties into your thing, Joe, on acceptance criteria. These are two ways to define done. Try one of those. Dependencies. Here, I set up a dependency within the sprint, which caused problems. I knew it would do that. Dependencies break Agile and Scrum. You want to see that in advance and avoid it in sprint planning. You can have dependencies within a sprint, as we had, and then you can have dependencies across sprints. Like there could be a card up there where the 21 method wasn't, or the 7 method wasn't implemented until the next sprint. That's a problem because it prevents the whole 7 stories from finishing. So dependencies within a sprint, dependencies across sprints, and then you can have dependencies to other teams. At the end of the sprint, there should be a demo. I love the developer demo at the end. Just the very fact of having a demo causes the developers to do a good job because they don't want to demo anything that's broken. But it also shows the features to everybody, all the developers, all the QE. We all see what's working. We all see what's broken, including product management, program managers, and other people. So do an end of sprint demo. The problems that occur here are, this was dependencies across boards. I've got some kind of problem here on my slide. This is the end of sprint demo. Do an end of sprint demo. This is a problem when the feature is not demoable. We don't know what's been done, so there's usually no quality involvement, or there's no visibility or transparency on the work that's being done. And also demo the test automation as part of the demo. We all want to see what the supporting testing and test infrastructure is in the demo. More on the end of sprint demo. Oh, this is the retrospective. Somehow my slide titles are off. But we had a retrospective. A fun way to do it is a sailboat. What's powering the boat forward? These are the good things. What's the anchor on us? What are the bad things? Make it fun. Do it that way. Here's a way, drop, add, keep, improve, put comments in this way. You can mix up the way you do your retrospectives, but think about what you're doing, identify what didn't go well, and make changes and improve as a team together for the next sprint. And that's about, I'm out of time. Holy crap.
Very good.
Whoa, sorry, there's no question. That's it.
No, there's 15 minutes for question and answer.
Oh, thank you. So that was it. Hopefully that was fun. Hopefully we learned something together. Hopefully we got some practice. I tried to throw in some tips, but I'm not Mr. Know-it-all. So the main thing is to try and get engaged with your developers to cause good things to happen. Questions?
How do you do the stand-ups when you have team in several time zones across the globe?
Email.
Yeah, email. What we do, we do an email where I get an email from everybody yesterday, today, tomorrow, and then I just follow up. So you can do it on email. Etherpad. That's a good question, though.
Hangouts weekly.
Hangouts weekly. Yep, that's a good question. Any other questions?
What if the task is too big and cannot be divided? Is it worse to have like daily reports or?
That's a good one. Right, when the task is too big and it's like gonna take 3 sprints and there's no visibility, that's a bad thing. That's a bad thing because nobody knows what's going on other than the person or persons doing it. And then it's tough for other people to engage and to test it. So that's a problem. I would try to fix that in sprint planning.
So
break it down into smaller tasks.
how do you
Yeah.
break that down? He said it wasn't you weren't able to. I
Then
bet
you
you
cannot
could
really
somehow.
break it. And
Yeah.
is it like worse to see at least some results or some progress?
That's it right there. You want to see something minimally visible within the thing of one sprint.
And so
it's
that
like-
is a task. What did you get minimally visible? What
Right.
can you get minimally
Right.
visible?
There's a slide. I don't know if I'm going to be able to explain it well, but so you can have a big feature. Let's say it's like develop the database, and then the other task is develop the UI. So you go, well, my task is to develop the back-end database, and that'll take 4 sprints. Sorry. And then, the UI people are blocked, and they go, well, I'm going to need, 4 sprints to do the UI automation. So the way to break that would be just do one thing on the database, make one column, and then make a UI task that says display that one column. So break it down so you get some visibility that's visible in the context of one sprint. So it's like the whole database and backend wasn't designed and implemented, but something was, and it was displayed, and it was tested and demoed. So to try and break it down, so
Create the instance.
I know it's easy for me to say you probably got a situation that doesn't work like
Yeah, if
that.
the task, when for example, developer doesn't know how to fix or develop this kind of feature, and he tries something and like to see at least something. I tried this one. It seems like it could work. And
Yeah, you could say, show me the hello. I know you can't do the whole thing, but show me the hello world of that feature. Show me one thing. I know you've got a big feature. Do the hello world version of it. Just show me that it works. And then, so it's like task breakdown, sprint planning. I know it's easy for me to say that.
do you think, does it work? Like at least this kind of partial information to pass? And
It's a fantastic question, and that comes up a lot. So you're right on track. And the thing would be to engage with that person and try to get something minimally visible end to end in the context of one sprint. And to redefine the work in a way so that is possible. He might go, it's going to take me 3 months to do this back-end database support, and say, well, don't do the whole thing. How about just one column, and that'll allow the UI team to engage. So like to have them. Yeah, it's a great point. It's easy for me to say that. I know that doesn't solve all your problems, but that is something that happens. You're right.
I think if you really thought about it, you could break it down.
And that's what the Agile people would say.
I want to ask some of the common risk for the Agile tester is losing the independence, generally being effective in finding bugs and setting up the quality goals, and generally educating the other members in the team around quality and how to improve quality. And I know that there are some other approaches how to make sure that we still have sufficient independence. For example, you can have some majority of the team, QE team, part of the Agile sprint, but have someone who is not part of the sprints and can be like.
No, you're right. You have someone working ahead sprints. Right. Like maybe in another sprint, we had a task where there was a QE person that set up a Jenkins job to run the UI automation. So it was like, as a QE manager, I could go, we're going to need that. I'm gonna make a user story to set up the infrastructure to run the UI automation. I'm gonna schedule that a few sprints back. And I also want a Jenkins job to run the unit tests, and I want them to run daily. So by planning ahead and scheduling some tasks to take care of the infrastructure stuff. Like there might have been an infrastructure story where we might have some tasks to set us up for the next sprint.
So do you have some experience with that, like how to make it part of the sprint planning, or like have it a separate activity which will be just handed in the QE team?
Right. Well, I think you said it, that engage, get that into the sprint planning and get that user story. The user story may be to set up continuous integration for UI automation. And we did that in the previous sprint.
Mike, but should this really be a part of the sprint planning given the person is not part of the sprint team?
Well, that's right. That's a problem, right? Like if you miss something like that, like if we all got to the thing where we go, we got to implement the UI test, and we all go, well, we haven't chosen a UI tool yet. We don't have the Jenkins job set up. We don't have the CI set up, right? Or the QE people weren't involved in the sprint planning.
So does anyone has experience with this like combined approaches that like the QE team is divided into multiple parts? One is part of the sprint planning, and the other part of the team is not part of it and working independently on the sprints.
Yeah, we are actually doing that, but it works a bit different way in a sense that there are multiple engineering sprints running in parallel, and there's one or two QE guys participating in these sprints, and there are some people that are not participating in any of these sprints, and these are, for instance, doing the tasks like maintaining CI infrastructure or testing the release, which doesn't involve any development or writing tests and that kind of stuff. And we are using that for 2 months or maybe 3 months, and so far it's working, but there are some things that we need to iron out yet.
Cool. How big is your team?
You are asking about devs or QE or together?
QEs and devs.
There's about 24 devs and 6 QE.
Yeah.
You realize that's really bad.
Yeah. We have an agreement that that devs are spending 20% of their time on QE. That's the only way how to handle that.
Yeah.
And Agile may not be the one-stop solution for everything, right? Like there are limitations. Like for the example he brought about, where you have a product which you can't have a minimum viable product for a long time, like maybe 3 months. Agile may not fit in also exactly. That's where people start to break Agile into their own models and definitions, or they take the good things out of Agile. For example, what we do in cluster storage is we take the good thing of Agile is by having daily stand-ups and having sync up of what we're doing daily, though we don't implement each and everything or the exact process of what Agile does.
Yeah, it's not a hard set fast rules.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not about the tool or the process. It's about people working together. And
But isn't that originally part of Agile itself, is adapted to your team? In my mind, that's one of the biggest failings of Scrum, is it tries to take this thing that is, you're supposed to adapt to your team, you're supposed to adapt to your environment, and says, no, you do this, and then you do this, and then you do this, and you never do that. So it tries to impose this rigidity on a process that's supposed to be flexible in the first place.
More than stop doing that. You think we need to do something different than handle this real problem. You don't want like the rule Nazi or the process general, it's about people working together. So if there's a problem, then figure out how to deal with it. It's just a process, and it's here to help us work together. I think it's great when it works, but it's not like something we need to follow blindly. If there's adaptations or things like that, absolutely go for it. Other questions? Hopefully that was fun. We learned from each other and got some practice. Okay.
All right, if there are no other questions, thank you very much, Mike.